This is ILTV on the hour, bringing you the biggest stories from Israel and the Middle East in just 5 minutes. I'm Shosh Bedrosian, and today is day 640 of the war in Gaza. Let's get into all the top headlines at this hour. We begin this newscast with the intense air campaign the Air Force conducted overnight in Yemen, pounding Houthi-controlled port targets. Now, the strikes were carried out by 20 fighter jets who dropped more than 50 munitions in this attack. They say the targets were on 3 ports and a power station. The IDF says the infrastructure was used by the terror group to transfer weapons from the Iranian regime. They also say the Houthis used the ports to conduct terrorist activity against passing vessels and maritime commerce ships. And just a few hours after those Israeli strikes, sirens sounded overnight in communities in Israel, specifically in the south of Jerusalem, the Etzion bloc, Hebron, and the Dead Sea area. A warning of incoming missiles was sent to a wider area, including much of Jerusalem, like we said, and the IDF confirms the Houthis fired 2 missiles from Yemen, and attempts were made to shoot them down. Now, no injuries or damages were reported, although the Houthis took to Telegram and said they struck the heart of Tel Aviv, but there were no damages reported in the central city. In fact, there were no sirens that sounded in the entire central part of the country. And Prime Minister Netanyahu is officially in Washington, D.C., as mounting pressure continues to grow for him to secure a hostage and ceasefire deal with Hamas. Ahead of this meeting with President Trump today, the Prime Minister landed at Andrews Air Force Base and stayed at Blair House overnight. He's set to meet with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Special Middle East Envoy Steve Witkoff before meeting with Trump this evening. President Trump gave cautious optimism this weekend about a potential incoming deal. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
They said they gave me a positive response. Well, that's good. I've heard that, but they haven't briefed me on it yet. I think they're going to be positive about it. We have to get it over with. There could be a Gaza deal next week. Yeah.
How optimistic are you?
I'm very optimistic, but, look, it changes from day to day.
Yeah, you can hear that cautious optimism. Of course, he says everything changes pretty much day to day when it comes to these negotiations. We know right now, although the changes Hamas is seeking are, quote, unacceptable to Netanyahu, he's still sent a team of negotiators that are right now in Doha, Qatar for talks, with the first round of indirect talks between Israel and Hamas in Qatar being deemed as, quote, inconclusive, according to reports by Axios. They also say the majority of the conversation focused on the mechanism of humanitarian aid inside of Gaza. According to reports, one of the sticking points Hamas is fighting to get rid of is the American and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. It's a mechanism that Hamas has wildly disapproved, as the organization says it works hard to make sure no aid gets into the hands of the terror group. The deal is reportedly seeking a 60-day ceasefire with the release of 10 living and 18 dead hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. The releases would happen in 5 different phases within the 60 days, according to reports. And in recent days, the Prime Minister Netanyahu has made it clear for the first time since October 7th, the return and the release of the hostages is at the top of the priority list. And turning to Gaza, a senior Hamas official admits to the BBC that the group's control over the Gaza Strip has completely collapsed, losing control of around 80% of the enclave. They say with nothing left of its military infrastructure. The BBC says it's received messages from a senior Hamas officer who confirms there's barely anything left of the security infrastructure. They say about 95% of the leadership are actually, in fact, dead. Like we said, we are continuing to follow all of the updates here on ILTV on the hour, specifically following Netanyahu's journey, his trip, his historic, unprecedented trip to Washington, D.C., the 3rd one he's made since President Trump took office back in January. He is set to be meeting him later tonight on topics to discuss the possible ceasefire and hostage deal in Gaza, in addition to the current ceasefire that is in place and established with Iran. That's the latest on ILTV on the hour. Stay tuned for more.